Jonathan Job. A serum powder has happened. You see those exiled cards up at the top. Yeah, this is a nice deck.
It looks like there was a powder, and he has mulligan to 6 after.
All right.
Scries to the bottom.
Jim starts on Scalding Tarn, and we are going. He says, wait, no, I have more pregame actions. Here's Gemstone Caverns. He plays 3 copies of the card.
His only source of colored mana outside of Simian Spirit Guide in the deck. Not that he ever uses it.
He has some 2 gut shots on the board and 1 surgical.
Dismember's in the main deck.
Yeah, he could do that.
This is not a great matchup for Dismember.
Gotta decide what he wants to exile to that Gemstone Cavern. Yeah, okay, the Dismember.
This card was originally an invitational submission, I believe, by Tsuyoshi Fujita.
It was Unlucky
Man's Paradise. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the one I had to modify? Originally, it was a channel land.
No, that was Tiago Chan's submission. They turned that land into Snapcaster Mage.
Okay, so for the record, you say like, wow, they turned into Snapcaster Mage. Tiago would actually come up with a land that was more broken. They just refused to print it.
Amusingly, Snapcaster Mage ended up being a lot better than that card.
There's no way. That card's too good.
That card would have been good in Legacy.
Mattery Shaper, turn 2 here for Job. In case you're wondering about the card, it is a land that taps for blue, so it's just better than Island, and for 2 blue.
It enters the battlefield tapped.
Did it enter tapped?
I'm sure it would have.
Okay, it didn't on submission.
Sure, but that's an easy fix.
Okay, but 2 blue, channel, counter target spell.
We all know how good 4-mana counterspells or counterspells are at all in Modern.
Oh, first of all, it's also an uncounterable one, so it just wins the counter war.
There's no counter wars in Modern.
You can also loam it.
You also just remand your own spell is just good against this land. This card's just not even good in Modern. Snapcaster Mage is so much better.
Loaming it seems really good.
Loaming it is so slow.
Yeah.
I am happy that we got Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah.
But it is better than that card.
Good.
Job has a turn 1 Mattery Shaper. Speaking of powerful effects, Eldrazi Temple.
You know, it's like you get 3 mana early on, and you're like, man, I made a 3/2.
Got it. I am online.
Jim's second land here. He has 2 lands up, but no white mana, so no path necessarily for this Mattery Shaper.
Mm-hmm.
That channel land's way better than you're giving it credit for. I want to play that card in Amulet really bad.
I think that the card is good, but the notion that it's better than Snapcaster Mage is outrageous.
I'm going to play that. Amulet's happy to sleeve that card up.
So Job allegedly mulliganed to 6, but actually he mulliganed to 7 twice.
All right, so I like this card a lot. Eternal Scourge.
Coming out of exile from the Serum Powder.
Yeah, you mentioned this is going to be good against Jeskai. You can't path it. There's no way to make it go away.
Yeah, you have to either counter it on the way down or sweep it with Supreme Verdict.
Okay.
It does go to the graveyard if you don't target it, but if you target it, it'll go to exile, and Joe will be able to cast it again.
Supreme Verdict, Jim's a few white mana away from that one.
Yeah, that one's not close. Yeah, bouncing it with Jace the Mind Sculptor is pretty much the same as anything else.
Jim bolts it back into exile, I guess. Draws Supreme Verdict. There you go.
We'll see if he's able to assemble some white mana.
Well, Field of Ruin, that's a white mana.
That hits Eldrazi Temple, too. That is significant. Job is at the ready, though, with wastes in the deck.
Yeah, I'm just going to cast that Eternal Scourge again.
I believe 2 wastes in the main deck.
Yeah, 2 wastes as his basics.
So he still has something to find if he gets hit by Path to Exile.
So he gets, you know, there were 2 wastes. There's the Kozilek waste and the Ulamog waste. This is the Kozilek one.
There's actually 3 wastes. There's the half art one that's in the decks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The one where it's not full.
The precon that's just
yeah, but it was
art.
just one of these 2 still.
Yes.
I like playing the Ulamog wastes, but I think I'm basically the only person who likes those ones. Every time I don't see anyone else register them.
I'm a fan of tracking down the precon ones.
Those are just the worst ones, which means I probably should be into them.
That's why I would think that you liked them.
I'd like white border them up and then just look at these. These things stink.
Yeah.
No one wants to see this on your side of the battlefield. Another Eternal Scourge in hand for Job.
Not the most exciting card here. Already has access to the other one. He really wants to just hit with the Reality Smasher here.
Yeah, he has that Eldrazi Temple in hand, so if he has Smasher, he can make it.
You do have to be mindful about being hit by Path to Exile. I know that Jim has white mana online.
All right, no Smasher. Swings Matter Reshaper. Jim to 13.
With the Temple in hand, he had the option to crack with Mutavault and cast Scourge.
Yeah, I think there's something else about to happen.
Perhaps Thought-Knot Seer.
Just that Eternal Scourge again. And Simeon Spirit Guide for another Eternal Scourge. Well, a powerful play, but if Jim gets that white mana here, Job will get very punished.
Yes. Big top deck for Jim. Yeah. It looks like a Funnest Strand.
All right, so yeah, big draw for Jim Davis.
Job still has a few things going on. He'll be able to redraw off the Reshaper. Still has Mutavault hanging out there with the lands.
Jim does not have another Plains, so he's going to have to fetch Shock.
Yep.
But yeah, Supreme Verdict and Serum Powder.
Battlefield. Put that one out there.
There you go. It's another land.
On the plus side, you know, Job didn't have to draw it for turn.
Yeah. Still has the Mutavault and whatever card is left in his hand.
Perhaps another Serum Powder.
Looks like Chalice of the Void was drawn.
At this stage in the game, it's an interesting question whether to set it to 1 or 2. Now that we're kind of entering the Snapcaster phase.
Yeah, now the dangers, I think Jim has... Uh-oh, no, this is bad. This is bad for bingo. I don't want to hear this. I think Jim has a Jace in hand.
Ooh.
Scavenger Grounds takes care of Jim's graveyard. But the problem is, Ryan, I don't like... If it is...
Ooh, this is a nice interaction.
Oh, he Scavenger Grounds himself and cast an Eternal Scourge.
It's everybody gets Scavenger Grounds,
yeah.
But you exile those Scourges, so he's back online.
I missed that. That's so nice.
Jim's just reading that. What the heck's happening? Why this card?
He's got Jace. But Job does, thanks to that Serum Powder, have 6 mana to recast both Eternal Scourges.
Not typically used for mana acceleration, but it's pretty free when you hit it off the Reshaper. As we talked about yesterday, Serum Powder, also the anti-Blood Moon technology in the deck.
That's so dumb.
Most commonly, if they're using it at all, it's to mulligan.
Jim says, go. Once again, we're seeing this about where Jace is just hard to find a window to cast.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe's gonna... You see Jim's hand, Sphinx's Revelation, Path to Exile, Lightning Helix, Snapcaster Mage, Jace.
Yeah, so he can set it up here, use some of these removal spells, make sure going into his own turn, Job doesn't have any of these Eternal Scourges online.
Path to Exile on a Eternal Scourge is just some of the mopiest stuff I can think of.
Yeah, it's just the same as lightning bolting it.
Oh, right, it has to go away, huh?
Yeah, it just
okay,
triggers
I can't get the land and then exile it.
Right.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. Very similar to Phantasmal Image.
Everything. Right.
Job has Chalice of the Void, but amusingly, he doesn't have any of the creatures that you can protect from removal spells.
Well, here's Matter Reshaper from Job.
That's a good one to path.
Makes that and the Eternal Scourge in exile. Another Supreme Verdict would be big for Jim. He only plays 2 copies. So I'm interested in what Jim's going to do if he didn't make Jace here. I guess the reason you want to make Jace is Jace unsummons Eternal Scourge and then gets hit by Mutavault. That's just not really an exciting line.
Right.
I guess Path, Snap, Path is what we might be looking at.
Yeah, then you have a blocker online for Jace. That's reasonable.
That Waste is tapped. Doesn't really matter here.
Yeah, he won't be using it. And that's it for basic lands for Job, though he has plenty of mana on the battlefield.
Yeah, and there's nothing like Walking Ballista or Endbringer that really utilizes the extra lands in Job's build.
And here is Jace the Mind Sculptor.
All right, what do you want to do with it?
Seems like he'll. You can minus on the Scourge, and then you have the Snapcaster to block the Mutavault. That's a pretty reasonable line. Plussing is also inviting, but resetting the Scourge is probably the most immediately impactful line. Jim goes for a Brainstorm. I suppose if he finds a land here, looks like he found Scalding Tar and Lightning Bolt, so he has more protection for the Jace. That did work out.
Just no Fate Seals. Don't do it.
Once he untaps, he's going to be brainstorming over Fate Sealing, so I don't think you have much to worry about. Especially because Job just has this kind of infinite value engine, just Scourges coming back every turn. Until Davis finds a way to clean that up, he really can't afford to be +2ing on anybody.
Yeah.
I want to say a Simian Spirit Guide picked up.
Oh, hey, but the
Job
other
can
gems,
cast it. He can cast it.
Nice. But yeah, here, Jace Mind's still going to be hard to beat here. Here's Eternal Scourge swinging. Jim has a lot of that 1-mana removal. He just has to protect the Planeswalker now.
Yeah. Yeah, even with Revelation in hand, it doesn't have the mana to convert that into too many cards just yet.
Jim fetching down to 6. Might just get that snow-covered mountain. And bolts away Eternal Scourge. Bolts it into exile. And Jace remains.
And this is where things start to get scary.
Yeah. This is...
Jace brainstorming every turn, slowly puts the game away. Job has a small number of cards that still matter. Reality Smasher is still fine as we get into the phase of the game. Jim also has to continue to cover the Eternal Scourges.
And Chalice the Void on 1. Nice, and Job actually finds a window to play it. And for value, Jim does have 1-mana card. Now, of course, Jace will just shuffle that one away.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it, too, is with Path to Exile, if you target a Scourge, even if it's countered by Chalice of the Void...
Oh, wow, yeah, it actually still works,
you still get to exile the Scourge. So
that's a neat interaction.
Right. What the Chalice is more doing is if Job does top deck a Reality Smasher, you force Jim to have Cryptic Command. He won't be able to path that one.
Okay. Another Brainstorm from Jace. Jim now sits on 6 cards, 4 lands, Snapcaster Mage, and Path. He has to putting 2 back. I don't know if any of his lands are actually fetch lands, however.
It looks like Steam Vents Island Colonnade.
Yeah, sorry, Revelation was the other one. So Jim's going to put 2 back, but right now he can't just reset the deck. Plays a Colonnade. Still has Path and Snapcaster Mage, and like you mentioned, the Path still is live here despite Chalice.
Though at 6, Jim's having a tough time keeping up with these Scourges. Jace is only, you draw your card for the turn, and Jace is kind of +1 overall after you finish resolving your Brainstorm. And with Jim having this many lands, he has a lot of stuff he has to clean up.
You can Path, Snap, Path again. And that'll get him another turn of Jace.
Right.
Which means he might be able to Revelation for 4, which is pretty good, but he'll lose his Jace. I bet it still seems to me like Jim will get this done, but it is closer than I'd expect.
Yeah. Even once you get to the phase where he resolves Revelation, it does need to hit.
See where Job sends these Scourge, whether it's at Jace or at Jim. I think you go for the Mind Sculptor here. It's close.
Jim's at 6, you know. He's been brainstorming a few times already. The more your opponent's already brainstormed with a low life total, it feels like maybe you can squeak it out by attacking the player.
Well, he goes for Jim. And we see Snapcaster on Lightning Bolt. And here's where that Chalice just doesn't do much. Yeah, bolts an Eternal Scourge. Says counter it, and he's like, yeah, it's fine.
Joe points to the chalice. Okay.
And then he reads the card, he's like, oh yeah, huh.
Oh, this is weird.
That chalice for one kind of stinks.
Yeah, well, we'll just put this back in exile.
Good call on Jim to see that play. Double blocks the Scourge, and that actually would send it to the graveyard.
Yes, yeah, that's nice. You clean up that one Scourge. Joe will have to. Joe does already have the other Scavenger Grounds, so he can get that Scourge back. But you force Job to do that, expend that mana.
He'll cast the one Scourge out of exile, and he makes another creature land though. Blinkmoth Nexus.
And that one flies.
Yeah, I like this. And that one, the Chalice does protect. Jim Enstep paths away the Scourge. He's really trying to clean up the board for his Jace. Draws Sphinx's Revelation again.
Mm-hmm. And here, with him casting Revelation on this turn and Job having 2 creature lands, it's a good window to +2 and get a bingo.
Wow, so dumb.
Too easy.
I have so many more squares.
You have a lot more squares, but you have the wrong squares.
All right, that's cool. Was it 16? 16 squares?
You know, you fought hard, but I am just too good at bingo.
I don't think I've won one in 2018.
It's just my year. I don't know. What can I say?
Oh, cool. Okay. Simian Spirit Guide cast.
Ooh.
Nice. And there's Sphinx's Revelation for 4 from Jim.
Yeah. Job's just not even going to fire up the creature lands because Jim has that Colonnade.
Yeah. And a Cryptic, a Path.
And now things are really going Jim's way.
Yeah. Well, he still needs another Supreme Verdict or something.
He seems to have found it. Yeah, Job does have that Scavenger Grounds, though. So you kind of want to navigate around that.
How is that going to work? I mean, I guess eventually Jim just keeps the Scourge off the battlefield forever. He's going to just have to race back. I don't know if he can.
Jim does have a second Field of Ruin somewhere in his deck.
Okay.
So once he gets rid of the Scavenger Grounds, either Job will find himself in a spot where he has to just get the one Eternal Scourge back, or right. Jim can set up to Field of Ruin the other Scavenger Grounds and then Supreme Verdict away this Scourge.
Sure. Right now, Jim just holding back and behind that Colonnade.
And the 4/4 blocker covers Eternal Scourge reasonably well as well. And a good life buffer from that Revelation as well. 10 is much more comfortable than 6.
All the creature lands here for Job. Here's Inkmoth, Mutavault, or Blinkmoth, Mutavault, both activated.
And he's just trying to get his chip shots in while they're still good.
Yeah, swings everything. This would be a total of 8 damage.
Yeah, just the average top deck in the Colorless Eldrazi deck is so much worse than the average top deck in Jeskai. Joe recognizing that he just has a short window to try to shove.
Interesting choice on Jim's side. He can put the Eternal. He can block with his Colonnade one of the creatures. Eternal Scourge is the most damage. And all this being sent at Jim Davis. None of it at Chase. If he blocks Eternal Scourge, that would force the Scavenger Ground from Job.
And then once we go through that, pretty easy for Jim to go for the Supreme Verdict when the Scourges show up again.
Yes.
He also has a couple pieces of spot removal. Obviously, the Chalice of the Void checks them, but they at least can deal with the Scourge if he wants to go that route. He can use the Colonnade to block something else.
Activates Colonnade. Here's the 4/4 blocker. And looks like he's going to take care of the Mutavault.
Yeah, the Mutavault definitely more of a problem than the Simian Spirit Guide, as Jim does already have access to Supreme Verdict.
So the Colonnade will block the Mutavault.
And Jim, Lightning Helix for the Spirit Guide. That one doesn't get by the Chalice, and even more of a life buffer for Jim, going up to 12 here before combat damage.
And post-combat, we see Matter Reshaper from Job as Jim went down to 8. And we'll go back to Jim Davis. That Chalice of the Void is keeping Job theoretically in the game. I'm not convinced he's there yet, but...
And at some point, if Jim needs to resolve a bunch of 1-mana spells, he can just Cryptic bounce the Chalice.
Right. Another Braidstorm provides Electrolyze and search for Escanta. And a fetch land, maybe just you can use the search to get rid of some of those 1-mana spells. Maybe the fetch land to shuffle them away.
Powerful synergies here.
Yeah. And puts 2 cards back and just passes with all the mana up. Looks like Jim's content to use that Colonnade to gain him card advantage. Just on blocking.
Yeah, it's just the majority composition of his deck and his hand is just at instant speed anyway.
Yeah, he has, you know, if there's something like a Reality Smasher off the top, he does have Cryptic Command ready.
And he's not really in a rush to get Search for Escanta online.
For Job, here is the Nexus. Swing for 7. Jim will activate Colonnade.
With Jim at 8, it's a good chance that he wants to block and then just use something to exile the Scourge.
Now block looks like Matter Reshaper. Be taking 4, going to 4. He does have Electrolyze in his hand though, so we might see. Yeah, we'll see Electrolyze. Shooting down the Nexus and targeting Eternal Scourge, right. Okay.
And because Electrolyze has 2 targets,
it's not countered.
Gets to resolve, kill the Blink Moth and draw Jim a card.
Yeah, if he just targeted Scourge, he wouldn't get the card.
Right.
Thought Not Seer from Jonathan Job. Sees Lightning Bolt, search for Escanta, Path to Exile, Logic Knot, Cryptic Command.
Probably won't be seeing that Cryptic Command for long.
Yes, it's fine. Jace can unsummon Thought Not Seer. I actually felt that Thought Not Seer was one of the cards that the Jace unban really hurt.
Yes. Yeah, being able to bounce Thought Not is a really big whammy. And yeah, Cryptic Command does get exiled here.
And here's an Eternal Scourge, gonna come on back. It's one of those things where you're technically still in the game against Jeskai, but I don't know if you are. Another Colonnade for Jim.
For the next Commander event of the day. So if you'd like to play in the next Commander event, we need 1 more.
I guess I don't. Yeah, with the Logic Knot in hand, does that make you want to unsummon the Thought Knot and then counter on the way back down?
It's an inviting line, yeah, because you're still going up a card.
Yeah, and that's what he does. Draws a card when Thought Knot leaves. Draws Scalding Tarn. Great. Search for Escanta would be nice. Colonnades to play.
You can cast that and leave up
Yeah.
Logic Knot.
Yeah, I like all of this. That's what Jim's going to do. Keeps playing those lands.
Still have Lightning Bolt to cover the Scourge.
Yeah, we're going to back up. I think Jim played Colonnade and then played Scalding Tarn, so I think going to have to back him up there, pick up the Scalding Tarn. Yeah, Jim says, oh yeah, I already did that.
And at this stage, you know,
He's trying to pull one over.
They're halfway into the round. He's just trying to go fast.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, you can see on his face like, oh yeah, I did that. Good call, good call.
It's starting to be, you know, when you get half the round done and you played one game out of potential 3, you do worry about time already. Though you wouldn't know it looking at Jonathan, Job.
He's still trying. I don't know. Jonathan can do this as much as he, like I said, this can go on for as long as Jonathan wants. At some point, I think he's going to throw in the towel. Jim gets a warning on playing extra lands. Eternal Scourge. Looks like it was bolted. This Chalice Scourge one-mana removal interaction, I'm really amused by it.
Yeah, this Chalice of the Void is just doing so remarkably little.
Yeah.
There's just been so many one-mana spells cast into it, and all of them just, you know, kind of resolved.
Here's Thought Not Seer from Job. That might eat a Logic Knot from Jim, and it is.
Yeah, gotta figure that was going to happen.
Pays, counters it unless he pays 1, 2.
Well, the argument for Job casting
3.
there, I mean, Job knows about the Logic Knot. He's clearing the way and hoping to draw Reality Smasher.
Path takes care of Eternal Scourge. Search for Ascanta's gonna flip. Empty board. Empty board when you have Search and Jace going. Like, what I'm saying is, we can play this as long as Job wants to.
Yeah. Won't be difficult for Jim to find what he needs, though. Currently, the hand is 2 lands, but he's going to see a few extra cards.
I wonder if he has a card that can take care of such a dire situation.
Is this? Ooh, this is 2 lands and a Serum Visions. Those are all blanks.
Field of Ruin.
And the Search gets to reset that, or he could choose to shuffle before he activates Ascanta anyway.
Yeah, Field of Ruin. Now, this is just... He does not get Jim a land. Actually, doesn't. Both players out of basics, but I think he'll go for Scavenger Ground.
Yep.
And that's what he'll do. But he gets both players have to shuffle, and that's really what Jim was interested in anyway.
Such a weird design.
That both players have to shuffle?
You must shuffle. He'll...
Yeah, I guess the other way you could do it is for each player that does search, that player shuffles, but that's just weirder.
Yeah.
So I might as well, yeah, both players shuffle. Let's just... Jim goes for Serum Visions. John says, no, Chalice of the Void. Don't you pull that on me.
Worth a shot.
Now you're in trouble, Jim.
I mean, he's still not fully out of it, but Job needs to draw good cards.
Thought Not Seer.
That's not a great one. It's a fine one.
Jim says I have a Scalding Tarn. That's just card disadvantage into Jace.
Yeah, I'm going to bounce that.
Plays Eternal Scourge. Jim uses Ascanta. 4. Serum Visions, Lightning Helix, land. How about the one that you can cast? Lightning Helix.
Mm-hmm.
Into the hand. But you're right, it's not done yet. Does Jim end step want to use the Lightning Helix to get rid of Eternal Scourge? No. No, he does not. Draws Serum Visions. That doesn't really play here.
Nope. And on this battlefield, you might just want to bounce the Thought Not Seer, as inviting as Brainstorm is.
Yeah, I mean, this Brainstorm's +1 card, and bouncing Thought Not Seer's +1, so it makes sense. Draws, hits another Lightning Helix. 2
Lightning Helix is a way you can cover that Thought Not Seer. Colonnade the block down the road is also a good one.
Keeps playing lands. Seer's Scalding Tarn. Jim should start counting to make sure he actually has lands left in his deck.
You can always shuffle.
But, yeah, but you need to know when your lands don't do anything.
Right, yeah. I'm sure he has a good handle on that. The games tend to go pretty long in this deck.
Colonnade swings in, so Job down to 16.
That's the other concern for Jim, is finding out how he's actually going to win this game.
Yep.
And with 2 Colonnades and Job's pressure being kind of mopey now with the 2 Helixes, Jim might be able to close this in pretty short order.
Well, we'll see where Job sends this Eternal Scourge. It's probably eating a Lightning Helix either way.
I don't know that the Scourge is eating Lightning Helix anymore.
You think it's going upstairs?
Yeah.
I mean, if the Scourge attacks Jace, it might eat the Helix.
Well, Jim has enough mana to activate Colonnade, block, and just not worry about that.
Well, now it's more difficult because Job drew Reality Smasher.
That changes the math.
Yeah. I think Jim is looking, can he, if he activates Ascanta, can he Logic Knot?
Your pairings for round 2 are online at our main
Knocks the land off the table, puts that one back up.
Please find your
He
name
could.
and find your seats
Kind of needs to, doesn't he?
For round 2, half
It's going to be tough to beat the Smasher if it resolves. Can't Path to Exile it because of that Chalice of the Void.
And he does not. It looks like it does resolve. See where they attack. All of Jim, just ignore that Planeswalker.
Yeah, that's been the game plan the whole time, so
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to deviate now.
I guess Jim could just like Helix upstairs and go that route. He's going to activate as Kanta.
Yeah, so with 2 Colonnades and 2 Helixes, he is too shy on lethal.
Bolt, Spell Snare, Jace, Land. Well, Jace, I suppose. Well, no, Bolt gets rid of it.
Yeah, Bolt still covers the Scourge.
What a weirdo.
You don't want Spell Snare, I'll tell you that much.
I don't know if there's any 2-mana cards in the deck even. So he draws Jace. It gives him some value. And then here's Lightning Helix. I want to see where he points it.
Yeah, because if you point it at the Scourge, you don't get to gain the life.
Yeah, so I almost want to go upstairs. It looks like actually one of them was going at Jace. Looks like Scourge was going at Jace. Yeah, so Scourge went at Jace, Smasher went at Jim is what happened here.
Okay.
Is anyone still making their way to their seats? Please wait your arms.
Actually, correction, the Scourge was at Jim, the Smasher was at Jace. So Jim goes to 4.
Yeah. I guess Job kind of identifying Jim was flailing a little bit.
Lightning Helix upstairs. And you might see now Jeskai do the, instead just start going on the offensive. Jim drawing Cryptic Command. He has Helix, Cryptic, and those Colonnades. Yeah, this is actually pretty easy, right? Colonnade hits once.
Drawing the Cryptic did make things easy.
Yeah, so Colonnade hits.
Yep.
Next turn you Helix face and cast Cryptic. And then you Colonnade both.
Jim chooses to set up Jace first, though.
Okay, I can see that. And you unsummon the Reality Smasher. You don't have to discard a card when Jace does that.
And then he can Cryptic the Smasher on the way down.
Great. Did not hit Job this turn, but he doesn't need to. He can just heal. He can Cryptic Helix and then swing both Colonnades. All you need to do is have 12 mana and 2 Celestial Colonnades, and then it's easy.
And Joe pretty constrained on mana. He can't do something like draw a second Reality Smasher just because you can't cast 2 in a turn. You can't really cast Smasher plus anything else.
I guess even then that's only 11 damage.
Yeah, Jim doesn't have lethal rolled up just yet over the course of 1 turn.
Yeah. Reality Smasher, Cryptic, bounce Eternal Scourge, but that, by bounce we mean exile. Says go, Jim activates as Kanta, finds another Cryptic. That should be good enough.
That Cryptic ought to lock it up.
Untaps. Draws Glacial Fortress. Another Brainstorm for Jace, finds Snapcaster.
Uh-oh.
Electrolyze Jim.
Uh-oh, that was a
no.
Brainstorm. That's not Search for Escanta.
Yeah, he did the wrong thing. Okay. So we'll see what the judge's resolution is in this. There might be, the judge has some leeway because of how Jim has done this. See how the 4 cards are in his hand and haven't touched the cards on the table? That's going to affect the resolution here. Our table judge is going to step in for a second and determine the resolution. I know if these cards had touched his hand, the rule with drawing extra cards is once a card touches the other cards in your hand, even if we physically can see, no, those are the 4 he drew, doesn't matter. They're considered indistinguishable, and the fix would be Jonathan gets to pick one that goes back for Jim.
Yeah, that would clearly be different.
Yeah, first the judge determines whether or not he thought Jim was intentionally trying to draw extra cards.
And if you're looking at this, those 3 cards that he drew initially, they're all good. He found something he would have wanted anyway. This is clearly not intentional.
You see there over in the red, our head judge making a ruling. We're going to relay that as soon as possible. One thing I do like about Jim's situation is because if you do play a lot, see how Jim drew his Brainstorm cards there? If you do want to play, like, he's going to get a lesser penalty because of the fact that he physically draws the cards that way, which is kind of just a good habit to get into.
Yeah, definitely. Precise mechanics, clear communication. These things are never going to get you in trouble.
It's weird to say that you should change your physical mannerisms so that when you screw up, you get a lesser penalty. You know, it's like, why do you draw cards this way? It's like, oh, because when I'm dumb, I don't want to lose the game. But, like, that's real.
I'm going to let you know something. I make mistakes sometimes. I'm a stupid person, just like everybody else.
I used to do that when I cast Sphinx's Revelation. I'd always, like, count out my Revelation cards face down on the table and then be like, 6, right? Then be like, yeah, right. Like, okay, and then I'd pick him up and put him in.
And
All right. So it was a hidden card error assessed. So the 4 cards were shown to Jonathan. Jonathan picked one of those 4 cards to shuffle back in, and then Jim drew the remaining 3.
Okay.
So Jim gets a bad brainstorm, I guess.
yeah, he saw, it's still finally he got electrolyze off of that into the hand, which is the 2 points he needed.
Colonnade swinging. Here's Dismember.
That's still 4
from
damage.
Job.
Actually, is that 2?
No, he tapped the Gemstone Caverns.
Ah, just 2.
So it's the full 4. That's full 4. The Caverns was tapped to try to make Smasher last turn.
Ah, aha. Yeah, Jim's pretty fine with that exchange.
Yeah, it's fine.
Still has the backup Colonnade.
Well, there's a Ghost Quarter for the backup Colonnade.
Yeah,
that
is a problem.
At some point, I'm interested, Ryan, how do you feel about Jonathan's strategy? So he's played, we sometimes use the term garbage time. We're borrowing this from basketball, where like, game's over, but they're still playing. Jonathan's played a good 15 minutes of garbage time this game, where it's like, and maybe you can say, hey, it wasn't garbage. Jim might have lost from here, but these last 15 minutes, Jonathan really has been behind. Do you think burning the clock from 30 down to 15 is a good? How do you feel about the strategy on that from Jonathan?
I think it really, this is a situation when it comes to clock management that rewards knowing the matchup. If you've played a lot of Colorless Eldrazi versus Jeskai, you know what your odds are. For example, when I play a really linear deck, there's matchups where sometimes I'm playing Magic Online and look at my hand and I think, I can just concede on turn 1. This is totally reasonable because I'm just not going to win with this hand. And if you think that your odds are just extremely long in this matchup, yeah, I would have conceded, 20 minutes ago.
Well, the bigger issue is that if Jonathan loses this with 12 minutes on the clock, you want him to get games 2 and 3 in 12 minutes? Like, I don't know.
And the thing is, Job just picked this deck up. This is a pretty new deck. He doesn't really know what his odds are in the matchup, most likely. He can't have played this matchup more than a handful of times.
Yeah, so you see Jonathan keeps casting Eternal Scourge, but Jim's getting that burn in. He's got Jonathan down to 8. Jim is really in control at this point.
Counting his own library.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, what he can do, his library's been shuffled. I say at some point you can, with enough search for Azcanta activations, you actually can keep tracking your cycle throughs.
Right. And because you can't take creatures, you kind of set up where your Snapcaster Mage is in your library.
And Jim has 13 cards in deck. So yeah, that means he can make search for Azcanta again, of course.
Yeah, that'll be
Fate
enough.
Seal Jonathan.
And possible Jim was doing the math and making sure he had enough turns to get Jace up to a Jace ultimate.
Oh, okay, because right now, because the Colonnade can't win because that Ghost Quarter. And remember, Jim does not play, he only plays 3 Colonnades.
Yeah, shaving that one, costing him a little bit in this matchup here.
Eldrazi Mimic for Job. Eternal Scourge. No, we got another Serum Powder. Some nice ramp from Jonathan.
That is just so powerful. You just don't really want to play games where you have to draw this card with this deck. It's going to come up.
Lightning Helix, the Mimic for Jim, back up to 9. Just not concerned. Could have sent that upstairs, but no.
He's
no.
Definitely pivoted and is trying a different thing here.
Keeps the card, chooses to not. So the transform and search for Azcanta is a May.
Yep.
So he can just stop transforming it. Jace Fate Seals again. Jonathan with Jace up to 6 loyalty.
And the pickup for Jim was another Celestial Colonnade.
We're going to see a game where Jace uses all 4 abilities in one game. Kind of like that. Says go.
And I think that more than setting up for the ultimate, it's important that Jim stops a Reality Smasher from coming down.
You can do it all of the above. There is no, though these 2 Colonnades in play are the only threats outside of this Jace left in Jim's deck. There is no, you know, you sometimes see like one of Elspeth's sons champion, one of Gideon Alev's Zendikar. Jim's not about that life.
He has some number of Snapcaster Mage left, doesn't he? Has he gone through those yet?
I don't think he's gone through all 4. We see Thought-Knot's here. That's going to eat a Cryptic Command. Counter draw. Yeah, I think he has some Snapcaster left. Here's an Eldrazi Mimic. He's going to try to Spell Snare it, and that doesn't work.
Worth a shot.
I like that. I like, I have, you know, he didn't Chalice check for the last 10 turns. Like, let's see if you remember him. To Jonathan Job's credit, the amount he has Chalice check, his reaction speed on Chalice checks has just been pristine.
Yeah, you're not going to hit me with that. This is round 10.
Jim finds Iskanta again. Last one was Ghost Quartered.
And that Iskanta search just showed 2 Snapcaster Mage. Can't grab those. That is unfortunate. You don't want them on the bottom of your deck
your deck's
either.
only 10 cards, so sure.
They'll be back around before you know it.
You just like count them. There's some of these card games I've been playing. For example, I got to play Epic recently, where a big mechanic is your graveyard goes back to the bottom of your deck, and your deck's very small. So like the ability to track recycles through the deck is actually just a strategic element of the game. And now it reminds you, like, that's what Jim's doing. You know, okay, bottom of my deck is snap, land, spell. So you'd say like, all right, bottom -2 and bottom -3 are Snapcasters, and like you'd actually track that.
That sounds
cool
really exciting.
I enjoy that kind of Magic, but I understand it's a bit more of a niche thing.
I usually know when I know the bottom about 4 or 5 cards of my library.
No,
but
no,
then
what about when you get out a sheet of paper?
The funny thing is, when you add more, it becomes more likely you to draw them. But that's when I stop keeping track, because it's just too much and I don't care anymore.
No, you get out a sheet of paper and you start writing it down. No, it's way grosser.
Never in my life would I do that.
I mean, if you were playing this game and you weren't doing that, there would be a serious cost. Like, you're going to pay a cost for not doing that.
Yeah, so I'm just not going to play your game.
Well, okay, fine.
So Eldrazi Mimic comes in.
You lose anyway, so good.
So I like this interaction here. Jim blocks with Celestial Colonnade. Tries to. Job goes for Ghost Quarter.
Yep.
Jim just chooses to shuffle those Snapcaster Mages back into the mix. That is my kind of Magic. That's what I want. I'm not going to keep track of it. That's stupid. I'm just going to be more likely to draw them. Yeah.
9 minutes remaining. Okay, so here's the thing. Jim, this might just be a 1-game match. And if it is, I don't like what Job's done. I'm just going to say I don't like what Job's done with the clock, okay?
Yeah.
But if someone does win game 2, I'm going to tell you it's not going to be Jim.
That is a fact. I can tell you as much.
But Job has fallen, I think, into a trap here of just like playing a dead game for too long. He's going to try to Chalice for 2.
That might be fine.
No, that would stop Snapcaster Mage. Don't say that's fine.
He already has Colonnade on the battlefield. That might be fine.
What if Job has another Ghost Quarter?
He would have to draw it.
I guess Jace isn't going to let that happen.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult.
Okay, he needs 2 Ghost Quarters on top in a row.
Also, the other thing, too, is that Jim's counterspell is Logic Knot, and Chalice doesn't shut that off. So
you're right. Okay.
He still covers spells.
Oh, no, is Jim going to... Oh, he finds Logic Knot off search.
Now he's got 2 of them.
You can't counter Ghost Quarter, Ryan.
It's not going to happen. Just leave any card that's not Ghost Quarter on top of the deck. Put any card that is Ghost Quarter on the bottom of the deck. It's so easy.
What if Job starts drawing Radiant Fountains? No, I don't know. Yeah, that seems like that's going to... What if Job draws Seagate Wreckage? There you go.
Okay, that's a good card.
And then he snags a Ghost Quarter off the top of the deck.
You could be in trouble.
I was trying, okay.
You could be in trouble. Maybe you have to bottom the Wreckage.
I guess Job's at 8. That's not that many Colonnade hits.
No.
It's 2.
Yeah, but I count 2.
What a game. You know you have the square. If you're still playing bingo, you had this Jace Ultimate square. That would have been your best chance.
Yeah, I mean, I have Iskanta the Sunken Rune finds Jace. That happens.
Did it happen? It didn't happen, did it? No, it did.
It did.
Yeah. Nice.
Yep. player fetches after Jace Brainstorm. I got that as well.
Yeah, this game you probably checked off all your Jace squares.
I actually still have a few. Jim never scryed, and he never bounced his own creature.
Jace is at 13 now. So he tried to attack with Colonnade, and Jonathan chump blocked with a Blink Maw.
I like this 6-5-2 spread. Those are some nice dice.
That's just gross. You should go like 6-4-3. And Jonathan, after almost 50 minutes of that game, picks up the cards.
He's got a high threshold,
Ooh,
but he's finally seen enough. And we're going to game 2 with just over 6 minutes on the clock.
All right, players going to go into sideboarding. We're going to be back with game 2, question mark, in just a couple minutes.
Go. Go.
All right, so Jim on a mulligan to 6 here for game number 3. He's going to be on the draw. Scrying does Jim. See our clock starting again, just 5 minutes remaining. Job tried to get that game 1. Now we're going to see if he can even it up and force the draw. Serum Visions from Jim. Jim does not have to do too much here to get the win.
Deck's pretty good at slowing Job down, as you saw in game 1.
Ghost Quarter, Eldrazi Mimic for Job. Now he had an option of Chalice on 1 versus Eldrazi Mimic. You have a one you like here?
I like Chalice on 1 better. Unless his hand is a really insane curve that's turn 3 Thought Knot, turn 4 Smasher, and you just try not to sweat that and overpower Jim. The Chalice seems to have more impact.
Jim picked up Spell Snare a turn late. Here's Matter Reshaper. I know you're a big Spell Snare fan. That hurts, right? When they make a 2-drop and then you draw the snare.
It's
I hate to see that one.
There's matchups where it's fine. This is not one of them.
This one's like, he has like, what?
3s, 4s, and 5s.
It's like, well, it's like, wow, it was actually live.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't.
You know, against Affinity, they'll sneak a 2 in, but then their deck is like 42s or whatever, so you're fine.
Jim bolts the Mimic. So not going to take any damage this turn. He gets to leave up Spell Snare in case Job goes for that Chalice on 1. 1 is the number for Chalice in this matchup, right? You're not going to see Job try to stick 1 on something else.
2 is also a really good number.
So if Job has another land here, do you go for 2 or, like, say next turn, you go for 2 or 1?
It kind of depends what else you want to do. You also want to be firing up this Mutavault. Snapcaster Mage is really Jim's best card.
Okay, 3rd land for Jim.
So getting it on 2 has a lot of value.
Go back to Job. Normally I don't like Matter Shaper. This is a matchup where I don't mind him though. But Reality Smasher, a pickup for Job. If he has Eldrazi Temple, he can make it this turn. Scavenger Ground, he does not. But here's Chalice of the Void. It's on 2. Take that, Spell Snare. And Blessed Alliance in Jim's hand. This is a nice Chalice.
That is powerful.
And he's going to cast Blessed Alliance to gain 4 life in response to this Chalice.
That is not powerful.
It's like, there you go. Gain 4, take 3. And fetch to take 4. So we'll just call it a wash.
The white Time Walk. That is not a honest evaluation of the power level of that card.
The white Time Walk. That's white doesn't get nice things. White cards all stink. Time Walk is a good card. That's how I know your story's not true.
That makes sense. I follow all of that.
Seriously, basic planes. What's going on?
I think that 1 is my ceiling. Yeah, if I get started to have more than one
I don't even
planes.
like that 1 really is. Ugh.
It could have been a swamp. Yeah, that's kind of where you lose me. You know what card would be better than Blessed Alliance here is Kolaghan's Command. But,
where I split off from you is I'm down to play green mana, or I think you're kind of off that one. But we can bond over white mana being terrible.
Right. I'm fine with that. It's important to hate the same things.
Cryptic Command, counter bounce. Counters Reality Smasher, bounces Matter Reshaper.
Not even gonna bounce the Chalice. He's just kind of gonna live with that.
He's slowing it down. Here's Surgical Extraction from Job.
We getting the Cryptic Commands?
That is time in the round.
And there's another one in his hand. Oh, that's so good.
Well, that's why you don't want a Chalice on 1, I guess.
That's not supposed to happen. He just blind gets one out of Jim's hand.
We gotta win game 2 quickly, so we better bring in the Surgical Extraction.
What is going on? That's such garbage, but then it worked.
I mean, in fairness, this card is just kind of fine against Snapcaster Mage.
No, it's actually fine.
But the fact that just happened is kind of out of control.
It's fine that he boarded it in, but the fact that we hit this 3 of in his deck and just got another one in his hand is just, that's nice. Left him with Spell Snare and Lightning Bolt. Ooh.
And Job can't cast 2 mana spells, so that Spell Snare is kind of covered.
Matter Reshaper. Yeah, I agree. Spell Snare is bad when there's a Chalice on 2 in play. That's some good analysis. This card might be dead. Activates Blink Moth.
Though the
Mutavault.
cards that Jim has picked up are 1 mana removal spells.
Okay, so these creature lands are going to go away. Path on a Matter Reshaper, sure. Bolt on a Nexus? Let's find out. Nope, Jim takes 4, goes to 12. 30 seconds remaining. Jim just needs to tread water for a few turns here, and it's Eternal Scourge for Job. Passes. You know, he might force the draw here, Ryan. I'm not sure that Jim gets out of this. Engineer Explosives is the pickup. Okay, you can set that to 3, actually.
Yep.
That's not bad.
That buys some time. And also that puts the Scourge in the graveyard.
Yeah.
That is a pretty solid pickup.
Explosives on 3. See if he passes. So Job's gonna get time, looks like called during his turn. Job has turn 0. He will also have turns 2 and 4. He has 2 attacks to win. Jim might be able to stall this one out.
Job needs to be drawing Reality Smashers.
It's like, man, we say that a lot watching this deck.
Yeah, it's almost as if it's the best card in the deck.
Well, Eldrazi Temple is the best card in the deck.
That's a good point. Yeah,
But it's the best threat.
You want the Temple in your opener. You want the Smasher on top of your deck. That's kind of how the games are going to progress.
All these, you know what's interesting? All these color decks in Modern, Affinity, Eldrazi, Karkland Ironworks, Lantern.
The best cards are the mana sources.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going with it. Tron, just all of them. Best cards are the things that give you extra mana. Those are the.
I wouldn't mind Ulamog if my opponent had to cast him off of wastes.
A swing. Here's a crack of Engineer Explosives. Jim's still going to take 3. Relic of Progenitus. And wait, that matters a ton, Ryan.
That gets to exile the Scourge, but
and
I don't know.
he can recast it right now.
Else,
could relic himself and recast. Is he going to do it?
Yeah, he can just he gets to choose the card when you relic.
He pops the relic. But now he can't recast.
Does he have, well, he might have Mimic, but he can't cast that if that's the case.
Why wouldn't he just tap it? It says go.
Seems like
I think he meant that. I feel like he meant that. That's a big mistake.
I agree. Jim drew Wear Tear, so you had to ask yourself, how does this card work with the Chalice on 2?
Turn 2 is Jonathan's. I mean, okay, we'll see. That's so he's down 3 damage on that play. I'm gonna see if it costs him. I think it might.
Yeah, 3 damage is really important against an opponent on 9.
Activates both creature lands.
I mean, this is still 3.
Swing. Yeah, it might
Scourge,
be fine.
but Jim has a Lightning Bolt.
Bolt on Mutavault. Jim goes to 8. Wear Tear on Wear on Nexus, so Jim stays at 9. Here's Eternal Scourge.
I think Jim just got away with something there.
What was that?
Is the Shatter Effect 2 mana on Wear Tear?
Oh wow.
That
oh wow.
Yikes.
Yeah,
that's the first Chalice trigger that Job has missed in the match.
It's because the card. Look at that thing. That's not 3. And Job shakes hands. He cannot get the damage in time. And 1-0, Jim Davis is going to get the match. He improves to 8-2. And now you see, look at Job's